Hello, welcome back to the Red, White, and Matt show with Kenny. Today is episode 18, and we are once again streaming live on Twitch. Kind of random at this time, trying to figure out when our show times are going to be. Um, However, let's go ahead and tell you guys what we're going to be discussing today for our discussion. We're going to be covering the COVID vaccine reactions. We'll be covering the nurse that passed out live on TV. I believe that was over Tennessee, I believe, Kentucky, one of those two. And then we're also going to be looking at the Chinese and Russian vaccines and how effective they have been. And lastly, we're going to touch on John Pence and Jared Kushner's shell company that they joined and kind of what that means. And then lastly, we'll be closing it out with their quiz. But I promise you today will be a good one. Great topics today, definitely great topics. Covering the stimulus check here in a minute too, and a few items in the short stories. And lastly, this is our last episode before the Christmas holiday, so don't expect another one at least for a week. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. We need more followers, so hopefully you guys like our content. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right. So, firstly, covering the stimulus package, which I noted earlier. Essentially, they have came to an agreement at this point. What they're saying is they believe that they're going to be $600 stimulus checks. So the biggest takeaway, really, for the common people. They reached an agreement. They're expected to probably vote around 1 p.m. today, Sunday, that is. This came around to, I believe, 900 billion, which was the previous amount. Total aid. Basically, there was only one holdup. That was from Senator Pat Toomey, which I kind of agreed for his holdup. He was discussing cutting off the Federal Reserve Emergencies lending ability which was created by the CARES Act. Essentially, this is kind of like an open bank for businesses to come in and take loans for whatever they needed. This package is also going to be giving that extra $300. They're calling it an unemployment insurance bonus of $300 a week. Let's see. Also, more money for businesses struggling to pay rent, and workers and vaccine distribution funds will be with this bill additionally. But Senator Pat Toomey had big beef with it. But his spokesperson noted this, which I thought was most important, kind of sums it up. Stated this agreement rescinds more than 429 billion in unused CARES Act funds, definitively ends the CARES Act lending facilities by December 31st, stops these facilities from being restarted, and forbids them from being duplicated without congressional approval. And lastly, they stated this agreement will preserve Fed independence and prevent Democrats from hijacking these programs for political and societal or social policy purposes. So I think it was a good thing because they had, I believe it was about, where's it at? They had a lot of money that was basically left over that had not been spent. Couple hundred billion there that was still left over by that original act that they had passed, and the Democrats wanted to, yeah, like I noted actually in the quote, it was 429 billion. So yeah, that was the leftover amount, and that basically ends now December 31st, because he kind of held his ground on it, and basically there's a deal at hand. I'm guessing before Christmas they're gonna pass this thing. I don't know when you're gonna get your $600 stimulus checks, but probably after Christmas and New Year's, if I was to take a guess. But Kenny, what do you got to add here?
Wow. First of all, as far as the hundreds of billions that were supposedly still in those accounts, I heard months ago that money had run out a long time ago. So maybe that's why there's actually still money there, because everybody's like me and thought the money was gone. So, and I'm not, what was all that money supposed to be used for? Is it for like?
So I think this was the part for like businesses. So do you remember at the start, a lot of articles were criticizing the fact that there were like big corporations taking these loans. Basically, do you remember that?
Yeah,
Ones that
basically
didn't really
sweetheart
need
loans.
it. What was that?
Yeah, basically sweetheart loans.
Yeah,
You
and so
know,
I
as long
think
as
what
they didn't
happened
fire their
is,
workers, they didn't have to pay it back. That's why I thought the money was
yeah,
gone within weeks of that going up.
right.
So
So a
I'm
lot
not
of
sure
them like
how.
accepted the loan, but they didn't end up using it, and they just let it go back.
Okay.
Yeah,
So yes, they were all gone.
yeah. Right.
Basically, they tied the money up for everybody else. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Now another thing I kind of have, I don't want to say beef with, now that they're lowering what they're going to disperse out to people to basically half what they were, because they don't want people to go back to work. Correct? That's what they're saying, right? But
Kind of. I think Republicans kind of gave that decreased unemployment bonus that Democrats were pushing hard for. I think they were wanting like $600 extra again on top of the regular amount of unemployment, but Republicans pushed it down to 300 instead. So
yeah, so this is what we've been talking about forever. It's like, okay, so they don't want to encourage these people to sit home. They want them to go back to work, do jobs that they destroyed. So I don't know where these people are going to go back to work. And it just seems to be, more politicians out of touch with reality. Because, like I said, they won't let these people go back to work. And now they're just cutting their funding now because they want them to go to work, but threaten to throw them in jail if they step outside the house. So it's just, more. Can't believe these people represent us. Next article.
all right, let's go to our next short story here. I think this one, what are we covering here? Yep. So it's going to be a video clip from the vice president talking about Space Force and what their members will be called. I don't know how the volume's going to go here, but.
As I mentioned, we just returned from the Oval Office, and so it is my honor, on behalf of the President of the United States, to announce that henceforth, the men and women of the United States Space Force will be known as Guardians.
I think he only said half of it. Where's the galaxy part?
Yeah, it's weird. All right, it's weird.
I like Space Force better. I was like
I
Guardians.
was thinking like spacemen or something. I don't know. Like, I don't want to say like space troopers. That one's like, obviously a shot at.
Hey, Space Troopers was awesome. I don't know what you're talking about. Cheesy, but so
for our viewers out there that are watching live right now on Twitch, we do lean right. So if you're wanting to know where we're leaning towards, but we try to keep it as least biased as we can. If you're Kenny, I mean, Kenny leans, I'm libertarian, but Kenny leans definitely more to the right. So let's
constitutional conservative. What you talking
about? So let's go ahead with this great Mariah Carey ornament. So this person, I think they posted on Twitter first, and everyone's probably seen this by now, but this person stated, "My husband and I exchange ornaments every year, and this year he got me at Mariah Carey, which is very festive." That is a very, I mean, you can see like the left eye is not even like lined up correctly. I would not be able to tell that was Mariah Carey if I went up to a tree and just looked at that. I'll tell you that much right now. I would never send this to you either, Kenny. So just a note.
Okay, so not to be racially insensitive here.
Oh.
But is it Mariah Carey black?
I don't know. I actually have no idea what her heritage is.
I thought she was like at least half black or whatever. That ornament, I mean, that girl's white. That's a white girl on there.
I would agree with you. It's pretty pasty, man. That's
exactly what I thought. It's like, that's not Mariah Carey.
Yeah, there's definitely no complexion going on ugly. There. But
hey, look, this is what happens when you get a factory in like Bangladesh or the middle of China. I mean, that's what, if somebody in China heard a Mariah Carey song, that's what they think, I guess she would look like. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, obviously, y'all never seen a picture of her, right? I mean, she's got better hair than that too. But that's what happens. Like I said, when you go to these third world not these third world countries. We go to these countries out in the middle of nowhere, and you basically tell them to, hey, go to the internet, pull up a picture of Mariah Carey, and then make us an ornament out of it. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, what's the internet?
I mean, they probably know what the internet is. I mean, I want to go that far, but
yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It's like that's what happens when you go get something done for 27 cents shipped. You know what I'm saying?
All right, let's go on to the next one. Maybe they got it handcrafted. They just did a really bad job. I have no idea.
I mean, yeah, it's obviously handcrafted.
All right, so this one, okay, so I'll tell you after we watch the video actually who this is. I had no idea who this is. Crazy that it was this person too. Let me get a full screen here.
I can't see nothing.
So this is a surprise for Kenny. Kenny hasn't seen this yet. Usually we're prepped before the show, but let's go ahead and watch this little clip here. So that is actually Mia Khalifa, by the way. That is her.
No idea who that is.
She's a porn star. She's the Arab porn star. Well, she was like back in the day, and then ISIS made like death threats against her after she did like start in porn. But she's like well known, basically celebrity, and she has other work nowadays. But yeah, so picked up the dog poop with her mask, like, and she actually confirmed this too, by the way. This isn't like some fake video. Like, she legitimately did this. Like, someone filmed her, and she put the mask back on. I would never do that, dude. Like I'm definitely not that liberal, but like I am someone too. I've had, my dog in the past, and I've had to like pick up its poop, whatever, with a bag. No way. I would leave that poop. Like, I'll tell you that right now. I will leave it if I don't have a bag. Like, sorry, dude. Like, I'm an idiot, and I'll come back later or something. But I'm not using my mask to pick up the poop. I can't even tell if she put it on like the opposite side either. I think she did, but I'm not 100%.
I don't think she did.
It's disturbing.
Oh. I'm going to come to her defense here for a second. Okay, so at least she cleaned up after her mess and didn't leave it for the owner of the property to come back and step on later, right? The only thing she did questionable was put the mask back on. You're out in the open. It's not like, and there's nobody around, so it's not like, what are you protecting against?
Yeah.
The sun is out there shining, so it's going to kill whatever. But like I said, at least she took the effort, because she could have been just like you and be like, picking that up. So the next guy's problem. She at least cleaned up after her dog, and I'll take responsibility for it.
I don't love my dog that much.
I don't love my dog that much.
Get into the big.
That's why I live out in the middle of nowhere.
What?
That's why I live out in the middle of nowhere. I don't have to worry about that.
All right, so let's get into our first discussion topic of the show here. The cream of the crop, the greatest part of the entire thing. The screen is freezing up here. I don't know what's going on. But this is covering the COVID vaccinations. This is live on TV. She took that vaccine to the nurse and like literally passed out.
It's like some Benny Hinn stuff going on over there.
Yeah. This is like the worst public affairs thing that could like ever happen, right? So the question is like, what happened, right? So AP put out an article. Essentially, here's the thing. She actually has this condition where she's taken vaccines in the past, and she's like passed out. So I guess like question number one is like, why would you not tell anyone? This is in Tennessee. That like this occurs. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna do it live on TV, this is a bad idea not to tell anyone. Like, oh yeah, by the way, sometimes I pass out. So like, this could look really bad in the media. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's in like some small, Chattanooga is not like small, but you know what I mean? Like local news, whatever it is, it's a bad idea. This looks really bad. We'll go into the other cases here soon, but I don't know, just really bad for everyone. The government wanting more people to take vaccines. And of course, this was the Pfizer vaccine that came out. But yeah, it's going viral right now. So last night it started to take off.
So my question is, how long was it after she got poked did she actually pass out? 3, 4, 5 minutes?
No, I think it was less. Like it was like almost immediate. Like 5 minutes, I think.
Kind of 5 minutes, because I was reading that article and they were saying, well, this is common. People kind of pass out after getting injections. You should kind of watch them for 15 to 30 minutes. And I'm like, really? I mean, I'd never heard of it. But it's like, going back to what you said, right? That was really bad. It's like, did they just get volunteers? Did they just walk in and, we need the prettiest nurse here? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what was the criteria to be the person that they wheeled out to get poked?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that should have been part of her medical history. And
right.
whoever was screening for that should have picked, should have looked at her screening history and been like, oh yeah, she's been known to pass out after getting an injection. I mean, I understand it can be like anxiety, but she's a nurse. I mean, nurses deal with some pretty hectic stuff. I have a hard time understanding like she would actually pass out, from just receiving a vaccine, even if she has a history for it. Like you said, that should have been screened out before they even wheeled her out in front of, potentially millions of people. Go out there and watch that. But
yeah, no, like that, and maybe she's stated to him like, oh, I think I'm gonna be good or something. Like, I would not risk it if I was them. But this AP article also notes that feigning after a vaccine is most frequently reported after the HPV, MCV4, and Tdap vaccines, which are administered to adolescents. I know one time I'd got a shot and they kept me around for like 15 minutes. So I'm assuming whatever shot that they gave me, it was a possibility that could occur. But I've had no problems with vaccines when I've taken them. Like they gave it to me and like, I was fine. But definitely something to watch out for. But let's move on to these other vaccinations that we've also seen, because this isn't the first news of a nurse or whoever it is passing out. So let's see. So this talked about the biggest one that I'm worried about is the case that happened in Alaska. Essentially, that nurse had a severe reaction. They had no prior medical history of this before, no allergies, no history of allergies, and they're hospitalized right now. So this is like the only case that we've seen so far in the United States where there's a vaccine and the person has no history of allergies. Like it's a rare case basically at this point. However, that could become less rare if they don't figure out why this occurred. But they have already stated, patients that do have allergies have to weigh the risk of should they even get the vaccine or not. They're stating if you do have an allergy and you get it, they want them to wait around for at least 30 minutes. If you don't have an allergy, just wait around for 15 minutes. I think this makes the most sense. But these are brand new vaccines, the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine. They kind of got some lashback over in Britain from the vaccine over there. Let's see what else we have.
Now going back to the other nurse, let's just go conspiratorial for a second.
Mm-hmm.
What if they picked her because they knew she had a history of that, and if there was a good chance whoever they gave it to was going to pass out anyway, they might as well get the flesh bag that's already got a history of it. That makes sense? So, did they pick her because they know she would have went along with any story that they told her to go with? Just throwing that out there.
Right. I mean, I doubt it, but like you said, it's conspiratorial.
I'm just saying out there. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just throwing it out there because I'm sure somebody's out there. If I'm thinking about it, somebody else is thinking about it.
Right.
I mean, why didn't they? I mean, I'm sure there's a reason they didn't wheel out, the oldest doctor there or whatever, because it'd be harsher on them.
Yeah. So the real question I think with these vaccines, so like, people are pretty skeptical because of how fast this vaccine trials been, right? So, but who would you be more skeptical about, right? A vaccine made by companies in the United States and Germany, or a vaccine made by companies in Russia and China, right? Um, so that's what actually leads us into the next story is the Russian and Chinese vaccines. And the thing is this, so one thing that we do know is obviously Russia and China has the technical capacity to produce, good medicine, things like that that can rival ours. A representative from John Hopkins stated the same thing, right? So even though these countries are a little sketchy, right? Don't really trust the governments there a whole lot. I wonder why. But these vaccines, they are making a political maneuver now with their vaccines from these two different countries. But the biggest thing to note, which is what we obviously probably would think, is the effective rate of these vaccines are not as high. I believe it's the let's see, 86% effective. I think that was from the Sinopharm out of China. And then the one from Russia is a bit more effective than that. I think it's 90 something percent or something like 91 or something like that. It's at the bottom of the article. But essentially, they're rolling out these vaccines in other countries. They've given them to the other countries. They're letting them distribute and do the trials on their own. They've already ran them in their own countries. A few different reasons as to why you'd probably want to do that. But right here, you can see in this chart, courses of vaccines right here. They're far ahead of the United States when it comes to, obviously our stuff has been given out in UK and the United States now, maybe Germany. I don't know if it goes into, I don't know about the other European countries. But they're already putting their vaccines out in all these other countries, right? Like this is a political maneuver, which is giving them a lot of leverage, right? So if these vaccines do work in these other countries, like that's a big growth in the relationship between whatever country, Russia, China, and say Brazil or whatever, right? So Brazil, Argentina have already got on the list. I can't remember if it's the Russian or Chinese one, but they're already scheduled to receive vaccines, right? Egypt, a few of the typical countries maybe that you would think of. Turkey, their leader at first kind of like hated on Russia for the vaccine, and then like immediately in the same day like turned around and said, well, actually, if it's working, then we'll just go ahead and take some of their vaccines too. So really stepped on his own foot with the statement that occurred that day, statements. But I don't know how to feel about this because we're losing political leverage in the United States when it comes to our presence with these other nations, going against China and Russia, especially when we know China wants to be the top dog of the century, right? Prior to this, you could say it was Britain, and prior to that, probably Rome. But the United States has been the homogenous country that's really rolled the world in a way for, I don't know, past 50, 100 years, something like that, right? But it's not good to me. Obviously, Russia and China can use these other countries maybe as like testing grounds for the vaccines, right? So it's kind of a bad thing that maybe you could look at. So that's the most obvious thing. But at the same time, if it works or if it's even slightly effective and they know that, oh, the United States just held their vaccine, didn't let anyone have it, right? Like that's pretty bad political leverage against the United States right there, right? So, the Cold War is over, but maybe this is the next step for them to go ahead and take another step, away from the United States.
Well, this goes back to what's the end goal, right? Is the end goal to get a one-up on another country, or is the goal to suppress this virus so everybody can get back to normal, right? So, but I can still see, even in the context of, well, we're just trying to stop the pandemic, still being there's some political rivals, right? It's kind of like two football teams going at each other, right? They're all part of the NFL or whatever, but they still have their own sides that they're kind of stuck with. As far as like vaccines coming out of Russia, China, I would probably trust Russia more than China. I wouldn't put it past the Chinese to give everybody saline water and call it a vaccine, right? But on the flip side, like China manufactures like 90% of all drug precursors, right? So what everybody else is making is coming out of China anyway. They're just assembling it in their own special recipe. So I don't know if that mistrust is deserving of China. Does that make sense? So it's like, yeah, I don't trust them, but we're already trusting them because they made all the precursors for everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean,
And where'd all the needles come from? China.
right. That's true. um, but it's a
Where'd all
weird
the test kits come
situation.
from? All the test kits came from China too, for the most part.
Yeah,
These are
where'd the
gone.
virus come from?
Yeah.
I'll see how this goes. They
True.
put out the virus and they also gave us the vaccine for it. That's weird.
Hey,
That's weird.
remember there's
Hey,
an
I don't know, man.
episode of the Simpsons or the Futurama where they
Yeah.
get down to the bottom of a basement. It's got the cure for cancer, and then they ask them, was like, well, how come you don't release this? And they were like, and get rid of our business. Something to that effect, right?
Hey,
It's a good episode.
It's I don't know. It's weird too, right? I mean, the virus originated from them, and now they have the vaccine for it too. I don't know. Hey, I don't know. Was this planned? I don't know. Who knows? We'll find out.
Me conspiratorial.
We'll find out 60-something years from now when it gets declassified, right?
China will never be declassified.
Well, not with China, right?
Yeah.
The best information we can get from us. All right, let's go on to our last topic. We're actually zooming through the show pretty quick. The questions in Twitch, we will answer those at the very end here because we record this stuff live to YouTube, or not live to YouTube, but upload it to YouTube. All right, so the last topic we're going to touch on is this article here. I'm a little sketchy about the situation, skeptical. But this is Jared Kushner and John Pence essentially set up a shell company. The article claims, and there was another article that claimed that secretly paid family members. Obviously, this would be a big corruption issue. Technically, they never received anything when they served on the boards. So it's, in a way, it's not breaking the rules. And they spent over $600 million on the shell company. So not a little bit of money, but a lot. I believe there's I believe there's a investigation into this currently. We'll see what happens out of it. But the company is called American Made Media Consultants Corporation and American Made Media Consultants LLC. It allowed them to bypass federally required financial disclosures. But let's see. Campaign records, it says campaign finance records show the Trump campaign and its committee at the Republican National Committee spent $617 million from their $1.26 billion coffers through the company. And that was according to Business Insider. Kushner established it in 2018. And that's when Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, was installed as president. Vice President Mike Pence's nephew, John Pence, is the vice president, and then Trump campaign CFO Sean Dolman is treasurer and secretary. But Trump's advisors didn't have any idea how the company worked and didn't know of Lara Trump and John Pence's involvement. They were just blinded by this. I don't know how true that actually is. But we'll see what comes out of this. It seemed like a big hit piece. I think this originally came from like New York Times or something, some of the big media companies. But it seemed like more of a hit piece, if you ask me, than an actual, like, something to actually be worried about. You know what I mean? Like the Hunter Biden thing seems more serious than this was. It just seemed like another strike back. I guess people just want to like attack each other's relatives, like their sons and daughters. Like that's the cool thing to do nowadays. Kenny has COVID. But that's the cool thing to do nowadays. What do you think here, Kenny? Is this a big nothing burger again?
Look,
it's a nothing burger with it
Biden. Looks like they're trying to. It does look like they're trying to conflate that to the Hunter Biden situation. Like, they're doing it too. But right. Okay, so my question is, what did this quote shell company do? Because after thinking about it for a little bit, it kind of reminded me of like a private super PAC, right? Where they pour all this money into this organization, and then the organization does all the banners. They go and they set up all the venues. So yes, it's a shell, but it's kind of like a separation between private funds, let's say the Kushner's funds or whatever, like those are own private banks. So you can't take the money and give it directly to their bank account and then tell them to go buy banners and hats and all that other good stuff, right? So, but on the other side is, something Trump said a long time ago. It's like, it's not his fault that they made the rules. He just plays by them, right? So I'm wondering like how much of it was him bending the rules or knowing how the rules work to get what they need done, or if it was just a legitimate separation of personal funds and funds that they were going to use for the campaigns. That makes sense. So like I said, you gotta have some way, and maybe they had another corporation that was already doing this. That's what makes this one a little funky. Or like I said, but maybe they were just putting those funds directly into the son-in-law's hands to let him go handle a portion of it. So that's the part I'm a little fuzzy on.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead. We're going to wrap this up. End it off here with our quiz. So I'll go ahead and do my part first. So the question is, when did West Virginia break away from Virginia?
Ooh, I would have to say 1849 or 48.
Why that date?
Because they broke off before the Civil War. Shortly before it, I believe.
You said what date?
Like they couldn't agree. They broke apart like the Mason-Dixon line or whatever. I want to say 1848, 1849.
So you're close. You're very close. It was
1861.
So it was like literally
nowhere near close. What are you talking about?
No, you're like 12 years out, right? I think
yeah,
that's
12
right.
years.
But
Texas was a country for 6.
You were right on the reason though for during the Civil War that I guess Western Virginia, they were part of the Union. Does that sound right? I think so.
Yeah, they split along those lines basically.
It's kind of odd because nowadays I'd feel like that would not be the case, but maybe back then. All right, so so that's my quiz. What do you got for me?
Oh, mine's going to be longer. Well, because obviously I can't quote stuff from memory. I'm just going to read you the 12 rules for radicals.
Oh, here we go. Our rules for radicals. Kenny loves
because I went through it last time. I was like, I butchered that really bad.
Oh,
that's
did
what
you?
I get for not taking.
I have no idea. This is all okay. Man, I don't know the rules for radicals.
Rule number 1: power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Power is derived from 2 main sources: money and people. Have note, must build power from flesh and blood, or not, basically. And then there are 2 things in which there is plentiful supply. Government and corporations always have a difficult time appealing to people, and usually do so almost exclusively with economic arguments. Saul Alinsky was a fan of socialism. Rule number 2: never go outside the expertise of your people. It results in confusion, fear, retreat. Feeling secure adds to the backbone of anyone. Organizations under attack wonder why radicals don't address the real issues. This is why they avoid things which they have no knowledge. Basically, become all stupid. It doesn't really work. So, but you want to go outside of your enemies to make them uncomfortable and make them look stupid. That's why they ask stupid questions at the press conferences for the White House. It's like, that's totally random. Like, what does that have to do? What does that have to do with the question on hand? Well, they're not trying to get a response. They're trying to make the guy look stupid. So, rule number 3: whenever possible, go outside the expertise of your enemy. I just mentioned that. Look for ways to increase insecurity, anxiety, and uncertainty. This happens all the time. Watch how many organizations under attack are blindsided by seemingly irrelevant arguments that they are then forced to address. Remember what I just said about them at the press conference. Rule number 4: make the enemy live up to its own rule book. If the rule is every letter gets a reply, send 30,000 letters. No one can possibly obey all their own rules. I'm just shorting that one. Number 5, ridicule. This is the one I messed up yesterday. Ridicule is man's most potent weapon. There is no defense. It's irrational. It's infuriating. It also works as a key pressure point to force the enemy into coercion. Pretty crude, rude, and meh. They want to create anger and fear, because when you get anger and fear, you quit thinking. Number 6, a good tactic is one your people enjoy. They'll keep doing it without urging and come back to do more. They're doing their thing and will even suggest better ones. Radical activists, in their sense, are no different than any other human being. We all avoid unfun activities, but we revel and enjoy the ones that work and bring results, aka burning down people's buildings. Number 7, a tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. Don't become old news. Even radicals activists get bored. So to keep them excited and involved, organizations are constantly coming up with new tactics. Number 8, keep pressure on, never let up. Keep trying new things to keep the opposition off balance. As the opposition masters one approach, hit them from the flank with something new. Attack, attack, attack from all sides, never giving the reeling organization a chance to rest, regroup, recover, and re-strategize. This is why, if it's not one thing or it's another, they're dragging up in the media. It's just one example. Number 9, the threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. Imagine ego can dream up many more consequences than any activist. I'm shortening that one. Rule number 10, if you push a negative hard enough, it will push through and become a positive. Violence from the other side can win the public to your side because the public sympathizes with the underdog. Unions use this tactic. Peaceful, albeit loud, demonstrations during the heyday of unions in early to mid-20th century incurred management wrath, often in the form of violence that eventually brought public sympathy to their side. That's why we have all the protest. Rule number 11, the price of a successful attack is a constructive alternative. This is the important one. Never let the enemy score points because you're caught without a solution to the problem. Old saw. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Activist organizations have an agenda, and their strategy is to hold a place at the table, to be given a forum to wield their power. So they have to have a compromise solution. This is what I've been saying for a long time, where the point isn't to fix the problem. The point is to have a seat at the table of the solution. So that gives them that's why they don't want to fix anything. Because as long as it never gets fixed, they can always sit at the table and dictate the rules that are coming down. Rule number 12, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, polarize it. Cut off support, network, and isolate the target from sympathy. Go after people and not institutions. People hurt faster than institutions. This is cruel, but very effective. Direct, personalized criticism and ridicule works. So those are the 12. I think there's a 13th one, but it's not listed over here. So Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. Like I said, the guy was an evil genius. And if you haven't read the book, you really should. It's only like 96 pages long, I think, but it actually goes into depth of how all these are supposed to be used. And it is literally the playbook of the Democratic Party.
Who is this Saul Alinsky? Saul Alinsky. He was on Russian CCP, right?
No, he's actually American. In fact, here's a fun fact. When
what
Hillary
year is he
Clinton,
born?
It had to be in the 50s or 60s.
Oh, okay.
It'd be in the 50s or 60s. He was old enough that when Hillary Clinton did her doctoral thesis, I want to say in the 70s or 80s, she did her doctoral thesis on Saul Alinsky. And Saul Alinsky apparently got a hold of her doctoral thesis, liked it so much that he actually contacted her to come join his organizations. And Hillary Clinton kind of famously said, love your work, but I am more useful for the cause working within the system. Because Saul Alinsky was an outsider, right? He was not in the political Washington scheme versus Hillary Clinton kind of was. So that's just a little, I guess, bonus or whatever. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. When you talk about, when I say the playbook of the Democratic Party, you gotta understand, Saul Alinsky was heavy into the Communist Party, anarchist groups, and most of your senior Democratic officials now were personally familiar with Saul Alinsky. That's why I always bring it up. So when you understand the tactics that are being used and where they came from, you understand where they're going with stuff. Does that make sense? That's why I always bring it up as important.
All right, Kenny. So that is all I have. Do you have anything before the Christmas break?
Like, comment, and subscribe. And, y'all be safe out there this Christmas. Don't drink and drive. Try to be charitable to people. Right now is a tough time for Americans. There's going to be a whole lot more homeless people. And I know the food banks are getting low. So if you can spare some extra food, socks, things that homeless people need, I think it's a good time to give back to the community on those things. So let's not just think about, what we're going to get underneath the tree. Let's figure out how we're going to donate those socks that Uncle Sally gave us. It's 2020. I had to say Uncle Sally because you never know. You know what I'm saying? So, put them to good use. Just don't throw them in the trash. Throw them in the Goodwill bin.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and end the show, but we're going to continue a little bit on Twitch. If anyone's there, we'll take questions. But that is everything we have for the show. So thank you guys for tuning in. And once again, this has been another American Experience.
Hey, thanks for watching the Red, White, and Matt Show with Kenny. Please like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for another American Experience.